It's October 6th, 2024, and we have some major updates for you on Tropical Storm Milton and a lot of other things. We've been talking about this area of interest in the Gulf of Mexico for a while now. I've been trying my best to hold on to some sense of positivity in the wake of the disaster that is Hurricane Helene, and really trying to hold on to those model runs that were saying it was just going to be a tropical rainmaker as it goes across Florida. But unfortunately, man, things escalated quickly over the weekend, and it looks like now we're going to have a major hurricane on our hands. Kirk's going to go on up over into Europe and maybe cause some problems in France. Leslie is likely not going to bother anybody, so we're not going to talk about it much today. And of course, there is another wave coming off of Africa that is likely going to turn into another storm in the very near future. But of course, all eyes are over here. Tropical Storm Milton currently has wind speeds of around 60 miles per hour, and the pressure is down there around 990 millibars. This thing is going to rapidly intensify, unfortunately, as it goes towards the west coast of Florida. And I believe that we are unfortunately on the brink of another billion-dollar disaster over here in western Florida. And before we dive too deep into that, I do want to put out a little bit of a PSA. The internet is crazy right now, man, especially over on TikTok and Twitter or X. Just kind of hold on to this thought, okay? As you're browsing social media, as you're looking at videos and stuff, anytime you see a post that makes you feel something, anytime you read something or watch something that makes you feel scared, especially, or fearful, just know that the person who made that piece of content stands to greatly benefit financially based off of how scared you are. So the more anxiety they can provoke from you, the more scared they can make you, the more you keep coming back and keep scrolling, the more everybody stands to gain in this situation. The vast majority of people who are posting weather information online right now are not driven by trying to inform you or trying to keep you safe. They're driven by money. And this is a common thing, right? You know, the Weather Channel is obviously driven by money. Like everybody, it's what makes the world go round, right? But this is a unique situation where literally anybody who knows nothing about anything can pick up their phone, make a TikTok, say some nonsense, and have it go viral, and it scares you, you know? And I feel so sorry for all the people in Florida right now who are probably getting bombarded by several different sources of information, and it probably feels impossible right now to truly understand what's going to happen. We don't need to be scared. We should rather be prepared, as this is going to be a big storm, and it's going to have some pretty widespread and significant impacts over here in Florida and potentially even other parts of the southeastern United States. And the center path here from the official forecast is really a worst case scenario. If this were to happen with a Category 3 storm, we would have devastating storm surge here in the Tampa Bay area. Now, what I do want to emphasize, like we always do whenever we're looking at these forecast tracks, the storm could go anywhere inside of the cone. So the center eye wall could technically go up here and make landfall in the exact place that Hurricane Helene did up there near Perry, and then continue to go to the north and east. It could also go as far south as down here towards Fort Myers, Naples, in that area. So right now, the average of all of the possible paths puts it right over Tampa, but that doesn't mean that's exactly where it's going to go. And over the weekend, the models really started to pick up on how the system is going to interact with the very warm Gulf of Mexico down here. All of the models really are pointing towards a rapidly intensifying system, way ahead of what the official forecast is. The HAFSA model here has a Category 4 or higher storm already by the time it's just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. Now let's zoom in and talk about the wind speeds and how fast this thing is expected to intensify. Once again, as this thing gets right above the Yucatan Peninsula, we've already got 140 mile per hour major hurricane here, but look at how small the wind field is. This is a tiny hurricane with a tiny little pinhole eye here. And I want you to keep in mind that that's likely a possibility as we go forward here, because as we do push this into Tuesday, later in the day on Tuesday, we do eventually see potentially a major Category 5 hurricane here with winds at 182 miles per hour, according to this one model. That's not exactly, how this is going to pan out, but this is much stronger than anything that we were seeing for Helene leading up to that storm. As I move this forward, I want you to do something for me. I want you to imagine that the storm is going to continue to gain strength and treat it with respect as if that's going to happen. Right now, we're looking at a Category 5 out here north and west of Cuba, and it's making a beeline towards Florida. So just imagine that this is going to continue to be a Category 5 and base your preparations off of that. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because it's always best to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I'm glad to report to you that 90% of the models right now are showing a rapid de-intensification of this storm upon its approach to Florida. So here we are on October 9th here early in the morning. The HAFSA model is predicting that this is going to be down to a 169 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane. I mean, just watch how quickly this happens. Before it makes landfall, we're down to a Category 2 and potentially a Category 1 hurricane making landfall here in Florida. According to this one model, it is going to fall apart even faster than it gained strength here as it moves into the western side of Florida. I do want to also point something else out. Even though this is going to likely weaken on its approach, notice how the wind field gets much larger, okay? So the big problem here is that even in the best case scenario, we're going to hope that a major hurricane kind of spreads out a little bit and the winds become less strong around the core, but the winds are becoming much stronger outside of the core. So this is going to cause damage and problems, farther north and farther south as it makes landfall. Also, we talked about this with Helene, the bigger the storm is, the bigger the problem storm surge is going to be. So this thing's going to pick up a lot of water and a lot of momentum, and it's not going to lose that. And in fact, it might even pick up more water and create more problems with storm surge as that wind field expands on its approach. All right, let's take a look at a whole nother model here. This is the HAFSB model. This shows even faster intensification, 173 mile per hour. My goodness, Category 5 hurricane of epic proportions here, just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. This is going to provide some unbelievable satellite imagery if this is what ends up happening. This also gets up there to the 180 mile per hour Category 5 range. But watch. The closer we get to Florida, the bigger that wind field gets and the weaker it gets. Now, this one does make landfall at a little bit of a stronger status, maybe a Category 2 landfall, but still, it shows that massive weakening right upon the final approach to Florida. GFS model also shows a big-time hurricane coming right up into the western side of Florida. The GFS also shows us the wind shear. Okay, so we've got this huge area of wind shear that the storm's going to be fighting against, and eventually it's going to interact with it in a way that's going to allow for that massive expansion of the wind field and then ultimately the weakening. So I am 100% certain that there will be some level of weakening before the storm makes landfall. And I think the big difference that you guys are going to notice is that while we live stream this, instead of watching for updates on how much it is increasing in strength on its final approach to Florida, we're going to be watching for how much it's decreasing in strength. And we might be disappointed. It might be decreasing less fast than what we wanted it to, so it makes landfall as a stronger hurricane. Or we might be pleasantly surprised as it's weakening at a greater pace, and that's what we can hope for. But whether it weakens or not, or how much it weakens, it's still going to make landfall as a very detrimental and damaging hurricane for a lot of people in the western side of Florida. So the time to prepare is now. If I lived in Tampa and I had the ability to, I'd be getting out of there, just in case. Right? If you live in Tampa or anywhere in that cone of uncertainty, really pay attention to those local officials and see what the evacuation orders look like and follow the guidance that you get. Additionally, even farther inland, all across the peninsula of Florida here, we're going to be talking about the potential for flash flooding. 6 to 8 inches of rain is possible for most people in the peninsula of Florida, so get ready for that. It's going to fall quickly, and flash flooding is going to be a problem. That's why we have a moderate risk of excessive rainfall over the next 5 days. So keep that in mind. We've also got a little sliver of a moderate risk down here in Miami. Starting today, actually, we're going to have flash flooding problems in Miami all the way through the course of this storm. And here are the expected times of arrival for tropical storm force winds as early as Tuesday at 8 p.m. for portions of western Florida, but even out here in southern Alabama, extreme southern Mississippi, Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be dealing with some tropical storm force winds down there. And then, of course, in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, as we go into Wednesday, we're also going to be talking about you guys experiencing some tropical storm force winds. And yes, the tornado threat is going to be a cause for concern with Milton in Florida, especially in that front right quadrant. And we don't have an SPC outlook to show you where the highest threat's going to be just yet. So we'll wait until tomorrow until we do a deep dive on that. However, speaking of severe weather, there is a slight risk today for some severe weather, some hail and some winds, and a 2% probability of tornadoes in the Ohio Valley over here in eastern Ohio, northern portions of West Virginia, western Pennsylvania, western New York. Pay attention to those weather alerts today, as we are going to have some strong storms. Okay, so we've got our video coming out today. We've got a video coming out tomorrow giving you a big update on Milton and what exactly we think it's going to do. We're probably going to be live Tuesday and Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications on. And if you live in the affected areas, please start preparing now. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ooh.